come back a little easier here now where we can see everything. So we're going to start with the skull. All right. So here we have the skull, and we're going to first be looking at the parietal bone. The parietal bone. So you can see here we have the sutures. The parietal bone is here on both sides. If you look from this view, parietal bone is here. Next is the frontal bone, which is conveniently in the front. So frontal bone, and you can look from here where you can see the sutures. This is all frontal bone here. On the frontal bone, we have the supraorbital margin. Supra meaning above, orbital meaning high, margin. And then we also have the supraorbital foramen. Yeah, supraorbital margin up here, sorry. All right, and then we have the lacrimal bone, which is right here, okay, right here. All right, so I have to get a really close look here. We have the ethmoid bone here, the ethmoid bone. We have the crystal galli. So this point picking up here, this is called the crystal galli. In the we have olfactory foramina, which are the little holes in there. And they are on the cribriform plate, Okay, and you can see here, it raises up some as well on the sides. All right, looking from here, we can see we have middle nasal concha. I'm going to use the blue portion here. So that one on that side, and that one there. That is the middle nasal concha. All right, next we have the Talenton bone. The Talenton bone is right here, Talenton bone. Here we're going to have the greater Talenton, this is the incisive foramen. Here we have the greater Talenton foramen. There's one on each side here, greater Talenton foramen. All right, so this might be a little out of order, but what I have here are these sutures, so we'll go through those really quickly. So we start with the coronal suture. The coronal suture fits some like a crown, no, not a crown that goes this way, but a crown that goes this way. So kind of what we associate with the crown of our head. That is the coronal suture. That one just happens to be out of order. Next on the PowerPoint, we have the vomer. Okay, the vomer bone, very small bone here, vomer. Then we have the maxilla, which is the upper portion of what we consider the jaw. All of this here is the maxilla. We have the infraorbital orbital foramen, which is what I was trying to go to earlier, infraorbital foramen. So infra being below the orbital, and of course a foramen is a hole. We also have the medial palatine suture here, medial palatine suture, and this has been traced with a pencil, so it looks really dark. It's not normally that dark. For incisive foramen, which I showed you a moment ago, that's the incisive foramen, and then there are ridges here, and these are the palatine process. It's kind of hard to see them. You can feel them here. On either side, they stick up a little bit. Just makes it kind of bumpy. This is also hard to see. We looked at the middle nasal concha, so we have the inferior. So middle nasal concha, inferior nasal concha. We have the temporal bone. The temporal bone here, not up here, but here, goes around through here. Temporal bone. This will be the zygomatic. They join together. You can see the suture there. I don't know how well you can see the suture here, but this will be the temple area here. So we call that the temporal bone. And so we have some features on there to look at. First, we have the mastoid process. Mastoid process. We also have the styloid process. These two portions here, they're very pointy. That is the styloid process. So between the mastoid process and the styloid process is the stylomastoid foramen. Stylomastoid foramen. Above that, or near that, to the side and above is the carotid canal, and that is on both sides, carotid canal. And then this larger portion here would be the jugular foramen. Jugular foramen. Okay, on either side we have an external acoustic meatus. External acoustic meatus, and that is where your ear is. Then on the inside, we also have the internal acoustic meatus. Unfortunately, this one does not go all the way through, but that is the internal acoustic meatus. So now we have the zygomatic process. Okay, zygomatic process here. That one and that one. All right, so we looked at these, but let's go over them again. We have the stylomastoid foramen. Almost exactly lateral to that, we have the jugular foramen. It is pretty large, okay? And then kind of above that, we have the carotid canal. Carotid canal. And then here we have the foramen lacerum. Sorry, I can't see that. Foramen lacerum, both sides. And then this is the easiest one that you should miss. This is the foramen magnum. Thought we did this one, but this here is the vomer, the bottom portion. That one. Sorry, some of these have gotten out of order. All right, so the mandible. So here is the mandible. The bottom portion of your jaw, that is our mandible. So we have a few features here. We have this hole. This is the mental foramen. Mental foramen. Get rid of the glare. Right there. Now you can see it, that hole there. That is the mental foramen. Then we have the mandibular condyles, mandibular condyle, and the coronoid process. And this is where the temporalis muscle attaches. Okay, so coronoid process, mandibular condyle. Remember, condyle means knuckle-like, so these are more knuckle-like. All right, so next we have the nasal bone. That should actually be one of the easiest, the nasal bone right here. It's the bridge of your nose. The zygomatic bone, zygomatic, attaches to your maxillary bone here, so zygomatic. Then on the back here, we have the occipital. You have an occipital ridge here. You can see the, there you go, now you can see the sutures here, okay? So here's your occipital bone. Occipital protuberance right here. In that was the Foramen Magnum. We also have the occipital condyles. So these are the condyles here. All right, so I was trying to find this on the other one earlier, and it's not there. You can kind of see where it's supposed to be here, the supraorbital foramen. So there should be one on either side here. It's not on that skull at all. You can kind of see where it should be right here. If I can find one, I'll give you some pictures, but on either side, you should have a hole there, supraorbital foramen. So if you're looking from the side here, behind the zygomatic process, is the sphenoid bone. The sphenoid bone, portion of the sphenoid bone. The sphenoid bone is the one that looks like a butterfly, okay? This is the sphenoid bone removed. It looks like a butterfly. And you can see the sphenoid here. This is the sphenoid. Lesser wing, and then this is the greater ring and the sella turcica. We'll go through those individually. All right, so we have the greater wings and the lesser wings. Okay, so these are the lesser wings here, the lesser wings, and these are the greater wings. Okay, they do look like wings. Lesser wings, greater wings. If you're looking in here, this is the lesser wings here. Greater wings back here. So this would fit in there like this. All right, in here we have the optic canal, optic foramen going right through here. So it's paired, there's one on each side. Optic canal and optic foramen, okay? You can call it either one. Some people say optic canal, some people say optic foramen. Then we have the Turkish saddle, the sella turca, and it does look somewhat like a saddle seat here, okay? And so that is called the sella turca. It looks kind of like a saddle. All right, so we're going to look at these holes here. We have the foramen rotundum, and these are on both sides. See that? And here we have the foramen ovale. It's more oval shaped, foramen ovale. And then next to that is the foramen spinosum, foramen spinosum. Okay, so rotundum, ovale, spinosum, ROS is the order that those go in. Then we have the superior orbital fissure here, superior orbital fissure. You're going to be able to see it as well on that one. All right, so back to finish up the sutures, we have the squamous suture. Let's see where you can see that. I don't have the top of this one, but you can see that line much better on here. This is the squamous suture, okay? Can't really see it on this skull. It goes right up in here, squamous suture. Then we have the sagittal suture. It's like a sagittal cut, sagittal suture. Remember, this was the coronal suture here. Okay, coronal, sagittal. Then on the back, we have the lambdoid suture. Lambdoid. Lambdoid, it kind of comes up in peaks. You can see that better now. And that is it.